Hello, and welcome to the Chelsea Players audio production of selections from Right Ho Jeeves. Right Ho Jeeves occupies a place in the history of the Chelsea Players, and in 2014, a group of talented students performed the full adaptation of P.G. Wodehouse's hilarious novel, and it was very well received. In fact, it was so well liked that our current group of talented students requested that for one of our first ever audio productions, we put on a selection of scenes from it. As the first scene opens, we find Bertie Wooster, wealthy British socialite, in bed, asleep despite the late hour. His placid slumber is interrupted, however, by the entrance of his gentleman's personal gentleman, the inimitable Jeeves, who has come to announce a visitor.
What is it, Jeeves? Tea?
Get up, Bertie, you old ass! You look a cross between an orgy scene in the movies and some low form of pond life. I suppose you were out on the tiles last night.
I attended a social function, yes. Pongo Twistleton's birthday party. Late. I couldn't let Pongo down. Noblesse oblige.
Well, get up and dress.
Get up and dress?
Yes, I've come to take you back with me. I've got a job for you.
How do you mean a job? I don't want a job.
What you want, my lad, and what you are going to get are two very different things. Have you ever heard of Market Snodsbury Grammar School?
Never?
It's a grammar school. At Market Snodsbury.
Oh, I had divined as much.
Well, how was I to know that a man with a mind like yours would grasp it so quickly? The Board of Governors for the grammar school in Market Snodsbury has left the arrangements for the summer prize-giving to me. This prize-giving takes place on the 31st day of this month, so I will expect you at Brinkley Court on the 30th at the latest. Have you got that clear?
I follow you. Yes, quite. Dash it all. What does all this have to do with me?
You're going to give away the prizes.
Me?
You.
You're pulling my leg.
Bertie, nothing in the world would induce me to touch your beastly leg.
If you think for one moment that I'm going to strew prizes at this bally-to-the-boys hall of yours and give a speech, you err.
What?
I said you err grievously. I won't do it.
Oh, yes, you will.
I won't.
You will. Or never darken my doors again, and you know what that means. No more Anatole's dinners for you.
No, I say, dash it!
I thought that would rattle you. Greedy young pig.
One is not a greedy young pig because one appreciates the cooking of a genius.
Well, I like it myself. But not another bite. Not so much as another sniff do you get if you refuse to do this simple, easy, pleasant job. So put that in your 12-inch cigarette holder and smoke it.
But why do you want me? I'm not the type. You have to have some terrific nib give away the prizes. I seem to remember when I was at school, it was generally a prime minister or somebody like that.
Ah, but that was Eton. At Market Snodsbury we aren't nearly so choosy. Anybody in spats impresses us.
But why don't you get Uncle Tom? He's got spats.
Bertie, do you remember me losing all that money at baccarat at Cannes? Well, very shortly, I shall have to sidle up to Tom and break the news to him. If, right after that, I ask him to put on lavender gloves and a topper and distribute the prizes at Market Snodsbury Grammar School, there will be a divorce in the family. No, my lad, you are for it, so you may as well make the best of it. I shall expect you in a day or two. I look forward to the 31st.
Mr. Finknottle to see you, sir.
Jeeves, is this a time for Fink or any other kind of noddle?
But did you not give me to understand, sir, that you wish to see Mr. Finknottle to advise him on his affairs?
True, all right. Bung him in.
Very good, sir.
But first, bring me one of those pick-me-ups of yours.
I have one already prepared, sir.
Thank you, Jeeves.
Not at all, sir.
I am now able to cope with life's problems.
I am gratified to hear it, sir.
What madness not to have one of those before tackling Aunt Dahlia. Oh well. Tell me of Gussie. How did he make out at the fancy dress ball?
He did not arrive at the fancy dress ball, sir.
Jeeves, don't stand by my sick bed talking absolute rot. We shot Gussie into a cab and he started forth, headed for whatever this fancy dress ball was. He must have arrived.
No, sir. As I gather from Mr. Finknottle, he entered the cab convinced in his mind that the entertainment to which he had been invited was to be held at number 17 Suffolk Square, whereas the actual rendezvous was number 71 Norfolk Terrace. These aberrations of memory are not uncommon with those who, like Mr. Finknottle, belong essentially to what one might call the dreamer type.
One might also call it the fathead type.
Yes, sir.
Well,
on reaching number 17 Suffolk Square, Mr. Finknottle discovered that he had left all his money, together with his ticket of invitation, on the mantelpiece of his bedchamber in the house of his uncle, where he was residing.
what happened then?
Mr. Finknottle appears to have realized at this point that his position as regards the cabmen had become equivocal. The figures on the clock had already reached a substantial sum, and he was not in a position to meet his obligations.
He could have explained.
You cannot explain to cabmen, sir.
Well, I should have liked it.
That is the policy which appears to have commended itself to Mr. Finknottle. He darted rapidly away, and the cabman, endeavoring to detain him, snatched at his overcoat. Mr. Finknottle contrived to extricate himself from the coat, and it would seem that his appearance in the masquerade costume beneath it came of something as a shock to the cabman. Mr. Finknottle observed the man crouching against the railings with his hands over his face. Mr. Finknottle thinks he was praying.
I suppose you realize, Jeeves, though one dislikes to rub it in, that this was all your fault.
Sir?
It's no good saying sir. You know it was. If you had not insisted on his going to that dance, a mad project as I had spotted it from the first, this would not have happened.
Yes, sir, but I confess I did not anticipate this sort of thing happening.
Always anticipate everything, Jeeves. It is the only way. Gussie waits without, you say?
Yes, sir.
Then shoot him in, and I will see what I can do for him.
Very good, sir.
Well, Gussie.
Hello, Bertie.
I've heard you've been through it a bit.
Yes.
Thanks to Jeeves.
It wasn't Jeeves' fault.
Entirely Jeeves' fault.
I don't see that. I forgot my money and where I was going.
And now you'd better forget Jeeves. You'll be interested to hear, Gussie, that he is no longer handling your little problem.
What? You don't mean that Jeeves isn't going to...
No.
But, dash it.
You'll be much better off without him. Surely your terrible experiences of that awful night have told you that Jeeves needs a rest. No doubt that this is a shock to you. I suppose you came here this morning to seek his advice.
Of course I did. Madeline has gone to stay with those people in the country, and I want to know what he thinks I ought to do.
Well, as I say, Jeeves is off the case.
But, Bertie, dash it!
Jeeves is no longer on the case. I am now in sole charge.
What on earth can you do?
That we shall see. You say this girl has gone to visit friends in the country. It would appear obvious that you must go there too. Flock around her like a poultice. Elementary.
But I can't place myself on a lot of perfect strangers.
Don't you know these people?
Of course I don't. I don't know anybody. All I know is that their name is Travers, and it's a place called Brinkley Court down in Worcestershire.
Gussie, it was a lucky day for you when Bertram Wooster interested himself in your affairs. This afternoon you shall go down to Brinkley Court, an honored guest.
Bertie, you don't mean you know these Traverses?
They are my Aunt Dahlia.
My gosh!
You see how lucky you were to get me behind you? Could Jeeves have gotten you into Brinkley Court? Not a chance. Aunt Dahlia is not his aunt.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Jeeves. Be so good as to bring pen and paper.
Very good, sir.
By Jove, Bertie, I don't know how to thank you.
My dear chap.
But, I say,
Now what?
what do I do when I get there?
If you knew Brinkley Court, you wouldn't ask that question. I got engaged 3 times at Brinkley, and no business resulted, but the fact remains.
Yet no sooner had I entered those romantic grounds than I found myself reaching out for the nearest girl in sight and slapping my soul down in front of her. It's something in the air.
I see exactly what you mean. What a bit of luck this Travers woman turning out to be your aunt.
I don't know what you mean, turning out to be my aunt. She has been my aunt all along. Here, push that in at the first post office you pass. My Aunt Dahlia will find it waiting for her on her return.
Oh, thank you, Bertie, thank you.
But, Gussie, a word of warning. As you shall no doubt be in... I say, Jeeves, what do you call it when two people of opposite sexes are bunged together in close association in a secluded spot? They meet each other every day, and they see rather a lot of each other.
Is propinquity the word you wish, sir?
Yes, it is. Thank you, Jeeves. Gussie, as you shall no doubt be in propinquity with Madeline, you must create in this girl's mind the impression that you are pining away for love of her.
How do I do that?
Lay off the sausages, Gussie.
Do what?
Lay off the sausages. Avoid the ham.
What on earth would I do that for?
Ask yourself, if you are a man who is trying to impress upon the girl of his dreams that she is the sole object of his affection, do you stuff yourself with food?
I believe you're right, Bertie. Newts sometimes do the very same thing during the courting season.
It's the best way to show Madeline that you pine for her. You'll do it then.
I will.
Good egg.
I'd best be off. Thanks again, Bertie.
Don't mention it. Simple, you observe, Jeeves.
Yes, sir.
Nothing elaborate, nothing strange or bizarre, just nature's remedy. Ask yourself how he will feel in a week or so, after propinquity has had a chance to nip in and slip it amongst them.
It seems a most promising situation, sir. Good afternoon, Mrs. Gregson.
Good afternoon. Is my nephew in?
I regret to say that Mr. Wooster has not yet returned from his vacation in the south of France.
Indeed? How frightful! Jeeves, it is young men like my nephew that make the person with the future of the race at heart despair.
Most distressing, madam.
He is a vapid and irreflective nitwit who ought years ago to have been put in some good mental home. Cursed with too much money, he fritters away in selfish idleness a life which might have been made useful, helpful, and profitable. He is an antisocial animal. A drone. He must marry.
Indeed, madam.
I am convinced that it is the only way to raise him up from the depths that he currently inhabits. And I have found the perfect girl for the job. Strong, self-reliant, and sensible to counterbalance the deficiencies and weaknesses of his character.
May I inquire as to who, madam?
Lady Florence Cray. She will mold young Bertie into a good, strong man.
A most pleasant thought, madam.
Of course, Bertie must be brought to see that he needs Lady Florence by his side. Please inform him that I wish to speak to him as soon as he returns.
Very good, madam. That was Mrs. Gregson, sir.
I heard, Jeeves, I heard. Hence the packing. Remember what the poet Shakespeare said, Jeeves?
What was that, sir?
Exit hurriedly, pursued by a bear. You'll find it in one of his plays.
If you will allow me, sir.
As you like. Anatole, you truly are a master of your craft. What ho, Gussie?
I like your nerve, sitting around the place saying, "What ho, Gussie?" That's all about the "What ho, Gussie" I shall require from you, Worcester. And it's no good looking like that. You know what I mean. That blasted prize-giving. It was a dastardly act to crawl out as you did and shove it off on me. I will not mince my words. It was the act of a hound and a stinker.
But, my dear chap, I took it for granted that you would understand that was all part of my schemes.
You and your schemes can take a flying leap.
But, dash it, can't you see what this is going to do for you? It will send your stock up with a jump. Madeline will see you in an entirely new light.
She will she?
Certainly she will. Augustus Finknottle, the newt's friend, she knows, but Augustus Finknottle, the orator, that will knock her sideways. Or I know nothing of the female heart.
Well, it may be all right. I may be wrong in supposing it a fate worse than death. and it's hard to face the prospect of that prize giving on the 31st of this month on an empty stomach.
Chin up, my lad. I noticed you going light at dinner tonight. Splendid.
I don't see what's splendid about it. It's not going to get me anywhere. I shall never be able to ask her to marry me. I couldn't find enough nerve to do that if I lived on wafer biscuits for the rest of my life.
But dash it, Gussie, in these romantic surroundings? I should have thought the whispering trees alone.
I don't care what you would have thought. I can't do it. She seems so aloof, so remote.
She doesn't.
Yes, she does. Especially when you see her sideways. Have you seen her sideways, Bertie? That cold, pure profile? It just takes all the heart out of me.
There's only one thing for it. She must be softened up.
You what?
Softened up, sweetened. Here, Gussie, is the procedure I propose to adopt. I shall now return to the drawing room and lug this Bassett in there. I will talk to her of hearts that yearn, intimating that there is one actually on the premises. You, meanwhile, will lurk on the outskirts, and in about a quarter of an hour you will come along carrying on from there. By that time, her emotions having been stirred, you ought to be able to do the rest on your head.
I see what you mean. You'll sort of pave the way, as it were.
That's right.
That's a terrific idea, Bertie. It will make all the difference.
Quite. But don't forget that it will be up to you. You will have to haul up your slacks and give her the old oil, or my efforts will have been in vain.
Oh, that's true. What the dickens shall I say?
Dash it, there are hundreds of things to say. You say you have something you want to say to her, and then snap into it. I don't see how it can fail, but you'd better have a couple of quick ones first, I guess.
Quick ones?
Snifters.
Drinks, do you mean? I don't drink.
What?
I've never touched a drop in my life.
Well, you'll have to make out as best you can on ginger pop.
I always drink orange juice.
Orange juice, then. Now, I better toddle off to find Madeline. You'd better find a decent hiding place until the moment is right.
Good idea. I'll hide over here.
Well then, good luck to you, Gussie.
Thanks. Good luck to you, too. I say, try not to look at her sideways.
Lovely evening.
Yes, lovely, isn't it?
Lovely. Reminds me of Ken.
How lovely the evenings were there.
Lovely.
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 Oh, don't you just love those lilac bushes?
Rather, quite.
I certainly do. They're lovely. Oh, look!
What is it?
Look at that sweet little star up there, all by itself.
Yes?
I wonder if it feels lonely.
Oh, I shouldn't think so.
A fairy must have been crying.
Eh?
Every time a fairy sheds a tear, a wee star is born in the Milky Way. Have you ever thought of that, Mr. Worcester?
I say, talking of shedding tears.
Oh, look, the little bunnies!
Talking of shedding tears.
Don't you just love this time of evening, Mr. Worcester? When the sun has gone to bed and all of the bunnies come out to have their little suppers? When I was a child, I used to think that rabbits were gnomes, and that if I held my breath and stayed quite still, I should see the fairy queen.
Talking of shedding tears, it may interest you to know that there is an aching heart in Brinkley Court.
Ah, yes. Life is very sad, isn't it?
It is for some people. This aching heart, for instance.
Those wistful eyes of hers, and they used to dance like elves of the light, and all through a foolish misunderstanding about a shark. What a tragedy misunderstandings are. That pretty romance broken and over just because Mr. Glossop would insist that it was a flatfish.
I'm not talking about Angela.
Somebody else? Mr. Glossop's, you mean?
No, I don't. This heart I'm talking about is aching for a different reason altogether. I mean to say, dash it, do you know why hearts ache?
You mean for love?
Absolutely. Right on the bullseye. For love.
Oh, Mr. Worcester.
I take it you believe in love at first sight.
I do indeed.
Well, that's what's happened to this aching heart. And ever since it's been eating itself out, as I believe the expression is. For you, I mean to say.
Oh, Mr. Worcester.
It's having a dickens of a time. Can't eat, can't sleep. All for love of you. And what makes it all so particularly rotten is that this aching heart, can't bring itself up to the scratch and tell you the position of affairs. Silly, of course, but there it is.
Please, don't say any more, Mr. Worcester.
Well, I wasn't going to.
I understand.
Good. I'm glad to hear it.
Yes, I understand. I won't be so silly as to pretend not to know what you mean. I suspected this at Cannes, when you used to stand and stare at me without speaking a word, but with whole volumes in your eyes. Yes, all through those days at Cannes I could see what you were trying to say. A girl always knows. And then you followed me down here, and there was that same dumb, yearning look in your eyes when we met this evening. And now you stammer out those halting words. No, this does not come as a surprise, but I am sorry. I'm afraid it is impossible.
Oh, right-ho.
I'm sorry.
Quite all right.
We can still be friends.
Rather.
Then shall we just say no more about it? Keep what has happened as a tender little secret between ourselves?
Absolutely.
We will. Like something lovely and fragrant, laid away in lavender.
In lavender, right.
I wish I could feel towards you as you would like me to feel.
Oh,
Because I am fond of you, Mr. No, I think I must call you Bertie. May I?
Rather.
Because we are real friends.
Quite.
I do like you, Bertie. And if things were different, I wonder.
Eh?
After all, we are real friends. We have this common memory. You have a right to know. I don't want you to think life is such a muddle, isn't it?
You mean there's somebody else?
Mm-hmm.
You're in love with some other bloke?
Mm-hmm.
Engaged, are you?
No, not engaged. I'm afraid he doesn't care for me in that way. At least he has said nothing. It's odd that you should have asked me if I believed in love at first sight. Whoever loved that love not at first sight? It's a silly little story. I was staying with some friends in the country, and I had gone for a walk with my dog, and the poor wee mite got a nasty thorn in his little foot, and I didn't know what to do. And then suddenly, this man came along.
Yippee!
I beg your pardon?
Nothing. I just remembered that there's a letter I have to write, without fail. If you don't mind, I think I'll go upstairs. Oh, look! Here's Gussie Finknottle. I'm sure he'll look after you.
Would you care to join me for a stroll?
It is, unfortunately, the mark of too many of Bertie Wooster's schemes that despite the great confidence that he places in them, they often sputter like a damp firecracker. As we re-enter Brinkley Court, we find Bertie and Jeeves discussing their observations of a Gussie who, having returned from his long-desired walk with Madeline Bassett, curiously has been behaving like a man with nothing to live for.
Everybody has been very, very kind to me. Very kind indeed. I have no complaints to make.
Jeeves, what the dickens is all this?
Mr. Finknottle is not quite himself, sir. He has passed through a very trying experience.
I left him with Miss Bassett.
Yes, sir.
I had her all softened up.
Yes, sir.
He knew exactly what he had to do. I'd coached him thoroughly in lines and business.
Yes, sir. So Mr. Finknottle informed me.
Well, then?
I regret to say, sir, that there was a slight hitch.
You mean something went wrong?
Yes, sir.
But how could anything go wrong? She loves him, Jeeves.
Indeed, sir?
She definitely told me so. All he had to do was propose.
Yes, sir.
Well, didn't he?
No, sir.
Then what the dickens did he talk about?
Newts, sir.
Newts?
Yes, sir.
Newts.
Yes, sir.
Why did he want to talk about newts?
He did not want to talk about newts. As I gather from Mr. Finknottle, he was the victim of a sudden, unfortunate spasm of nervousness, sir. Upon finding himself alone with the young woman, he admits to having lost his morale. In such circumstances, gentlemen frequently talk at random, saying the first thing that chances to enter their heads. This, in Mr. Fingnottel's case, would seem to have been the newt, its treatment in sickness and in health.
Oh, bad, Jeeves.
Yes, sir.
And how long did this nuisance continue?
For some not inconsiderable time, I gather, sir. According to Mr. Fingnottel, he supplied Miss Bassett with very full and complete information, not only with respect to the common newt, but also the crested and palmated varieties. He had just described to her how the newly born newt has 3 pairs of long plume-like external gills, when the young lady rose and said that she thought she would go back to the house.
And then?
She went, sir.
Difficult, Jeeves.
Yes, sir.
Well, I must think it over.
Yes, sir.
Burnish the brain a bit and endeavor to find a way out.
Yes, sir.
Well, good night, Jeeves.
Good night, sir.
The thing about Bertie Wooster and his schemes is that they are rather like the mythical creature, the Hydra. Cut off one head and, well, 2 more grow back. Despite this crushing setback to Bertie's scheme to bring these 2 hearts together, he soon settled on another, more daring plan. This time, he would waylay Gussie's morning orange juice, and, before he could get at it, introduce the absolutely foreign substance of some gin. This spirited beverage would light a fire in Gussie's belly, and he would finally be emboldened to tell the girl of his dreams how he really felt. Jeeves, however, disapproved. But despite the objections of his manservant, Bertie was determined to put his new scheme into action on the morning of the same day that Gussie was to distribute prizes at Market Snodsbury Grammar School.
Not to detain you long, but on this auspicious occasion, I feel compelled to say a few words.
Ah, Gussie. Lovely day, is it not? I've got good news for you, Gussie.
Has Market Snodsbury Grammar School burned to the ground?
Not that I know of.
Have mumps broken out? Is the place closed on account of measles?
No.
And what do you mean you've got good news?
You mustn't take it so hard, Gussie. Why worry about a laughably simple job like distributing prizes at a school?
Laughably simple, eh? You realize I've been sweating for days and haven't been able to think of a thing to say yet, except that I won't detain them long? You bet I won't detain them long. I've been timing my speech and it lasts 5 seconds. I say, I have a good mind to take that tip of yours and have a drink.
Oh, you'll be alright.
How do you know I'll be alright? I'm sure to blow up in my lines.
Tush.
Or drop a prize. Or something. I can feel it in my bones. I shall be a mockery and a scorn. And you, fully cognizant of what I'm in for, come babbling about good news.
When I said I had good news, old man, I meant about Madeline Bassett.
You can't have good news about her. I've dished myself there completely.
Not at all. Didn't she say that you were the man she loved?
She did, but it's no use. She may have loved me once. Last night will have killed all that.
Not a bit of it. She knows you simply got cold feet.
And I should get cold feet if I tried again. It's no good, Bertie. I'm hopeless. And there's an end of it. Fate made me the sort of chap who can't say boo to a goose.
It isn't a question of saying boo to a goose. It is simply a matter of...
I know. But it's no good. I can't do it. The whole thing is off. I'm not going to risk a repetition of last night's fiasco. No, I accept my destiny. And now, Bertie, like a good chap, if you will excuse me, I want to compose my speech. Ladies and gentlemen, I do not propose to take this
Ah, Jeeves. I didn't see you come in.
Yes, sir.
You have the air of one about to make a remark, Jeeves.
Oh, no, sir. I note that you are in possession of Mr. Fingnottel's orange juice. I was merely about to observe that, in my opinion, it would be injudicious to add spirit to it.
Injudicious. I thought we had already tread this ground, Jeeves. I distinctly remember making it clear...
Because I have already attended to the matter, sir.
What?
Yes, sir. I decided, after all, to acquiesce in your wishes.
Jeeves, I am touched.
Thank you, sir.
Touched and gratified.
Thank you very much, sir.
But what caused this change of heart?
I chanced to encounter Mr. Finknottle in the passageway this morning, and we had a brief conversation.
And you came away feeling he needed a bracer?
Very much so, sir. His attitude struck me as defeatist.
I felt the same. How much gin did you put in the jug?
A liberal tumblerful, sir.
Would that be a normal dose for an adult defeatist, do you think?
I fancy it should prove adequate, sir.
I wonder. I think I'll just add another fluid ounce or so.
I would not advocate it, sir.
You are falling into your old error, Jeeves, of neglecting the direct approach for the psychological. I shall add the ounce.
Very good, sir.
What ho, Bertie! What ho! What ho, and again what ho! What a beautiful world this is, Bertie. One of the nicest I ever met. Well, Bertie, you will be glad to hear that you were right. Your theory has been tested and proven correct. I feel like a fighting cock.
Have you been having a drink?
I have, as you advised. Unpleasant stuff, like medicine. Burns your throat, too, and makes one as thirsty as the dickens. How anyone can mop it up as you do for pleasure beats me. Still, I would be the last to deny that it tunes up the system. I could bite a tiger.
What did you have?
Whiskey. Well, at least that was the label on the decanter, and I have no reason to suppose that a woman like your aunt would deliberately deceive the public.
A whiskey and soda, eh? You couldn't have done better.
Soda? Oh, I knew there was something I'd forgotten.
Didn't you put any soda in it?
It never occurred to me. I just nipped into the dining room and drank out of the decanter.
How much?
About 10 swallows, 12 maybe, or 14. I'd say 16 medium-sized gulps. Gosh, I'm thirsty.
Well, I'm glad you're feeling braced.
Braced? Did I say I could bite a tiger?
You did.
Make it 2 tigers! I could chew holes in a steel door. I can't imagine why I made all the fuss about a potty job like distributing prizes at a rotten little country grammar school. There's simply nothing to it. I just sit up on the platform, drop a few gracious words, hand the little blighters their prizes, and hop down again admired by all. I shall be a riot. I know just the sort of stuff that's needed. Simple, manly, optimistic stuff straight from the shoulder. This shoulder! Oh, why I was so nervous this morning, I can't imagine. I was feeling nervous, but now I feel fine, Bertie. Fine. And I say this to you as an old friend, because that's what you are, old man. An old friend. I don't think I've met an older friend. How long have you been an old friend of mine, Bertie?
Oh, years and years.
Imagine! Though, of course, there must have been a time when you were a new friend. Golly, what a thirst I have. I'll just nip down to the kitchen and see if I can lay my hands on some orange juice.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Market Snosberry Grammar School, and thank you for joining us in celebrating the hard and honest labors of these young boys during this term. We'd like to thank in a special way the young people who have really worked so very...
I venture to suggest that Mr. Finknottle might mention to the young gentleman that education is a drawing out, not a putting in. The late Lord Brancaster was much addicted to presenting prizes at schools, and invariably employed this dictum.
And how did Gussie react to that?
He laughed heartily, sir.
This surprised you, no doubt?
Yes, sir.
There's a ready explanation, Jeeves. Gussie has been on a bender. He's as tight as an owl.
Indeed, sir.
Absolutely. His nerve cracked under the strain, and he sneaked into the dining room and started mopping up the stuff like a vacuum cleaner.
Most disturbing, sir.
And yet, Jeeves, there's always the bright side.
You imply, sir...
Precisely. I'm thinking of him in his capacity of wooer.
Then you have not heard, sir.
Eh?
You are not aware that a marriage has been arranged and will shortly take place between Mr. Finknottle and Miss Bassett?
What?
Yes, sir.
This is splendid news.
Yes, sir.
You see now how right I was. The simple, direct method never fails, Jeeves.
Yes, sir.
Still, if a liberal quantity of whiskey was enough to thaw old Gussie's feet,
It's lucky that he didn't get at that laced orange juice on top of that, what?
Extremely, sir. It was a most prudent act on your part, if I may say so, sir, to dispose of the orange juice.
Eh? I never gave him the OJ. His first meeting with Aunt Dahlia's whiskey seemed to do the trick.
But did you not conceal the empty container in your room after disposing of its contents, sir?
What? No. Was the container in my room?
On the bed, sir.
Empty, you say?
Completely, sir. I very much fear, sir.
So do I, Jeeves.
It would seem almost certain.
Quite certain.
Most disturbing, sir.
Today we are happy to welcome as the guest of the afternoon Mr. Fitzwaddle. Fitznaddle.
Finknoddle.
I should say Finknoddle.
Of course you should, you silly ass. All right, get on with it.
We are all happy, I say, to welcome the guest this afternoon, Mr. Finknoddle, who has kindly consented to award the prizes. I am sure that Mr. Finknoddle's name is one that needs no introduction to you. It is, I venture to assert, a name that is familiar to us all.
Not to you. You didn't seem to know it so dashed well. What? A speech. Boys, I mean, ladies and gentlemen and boys, I do not detain you long, but I suppose on this occasion to feel compelled to say a few auspicious words. Ladies and boys and gentlemen, what I want to say is this, and I say it confidently, without fear of contradiction. I say in short, I am happy to be here on this auspicious occasion. What a beautiful world this is. A beautiful world, full of happiness on every side. The sky is blue, the birds are singing, and there is optimism everywhere. And why not, ladies and gentlemen, and of course boys, after all, an education is a drawing out, not a putting in. People who say it isn't a beautiful world don't know what they are talking about. Driving here in the car today, I was reluctantly compelled to tick off my host, old Tom Travers, on this very point. You'll see him sitting there in the second row next to the large lady in beige. He expressed the opinion that the world was in a deplorable state. I said to him, "Don't talk rot, old Tom Travers." "I'm not accustomed to talking rot," he said. "Then for a beginner," I said, "you do it dashed well." That was telling him what? Well, boys, this is the end of the term. Many of you, no doubt, are leaving the school. And I don't blame you, because there's a frost in here you could cut with a knife. You are going out into the great world, and what I want to impress upon you is that you must use every opportunity to prevent yourselves becoming pessimists, like old Tom Travers. There, in the second row, the fellow with a face rather like a walnut. If there's one thing in the world I can't stand, it's a pessimist. You all know the difference between an optimist and a pessimist. A pessimist is a man who... What? Hello, Bertie! I didn't know you were here! Now, this is an instance of what I mean. Bertie Wooster is as foul a pessimist as ever bit a tiger. I tell you because I despise that man. And why do I despise him? Because, boys and ladies and gentlemen, he is a pessimist. Let me tell you a story about Bertie Wooster.
Perhaps as time is getting on, Mr. Finknoddle, we had better...
The prizes, of course. Of course, yes, Right Ho. What's this one?
Spelling and dictation, P.K. Purvis.
Spelling and dictation, P.K. Purvis. Forward, P.K. Purvis.
We hope you have enjoyed this Chelsea Players production of Selections from Right Ho Jeeves, an original adaptation by Christopher Foeckler of the novel of the same name by P.G. Wodehouse. If you enjoyed this production, look for our other one of The Boston Valley Mystery, a Sherlock Holmes short story by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. This production featured the vocal talents of Chelsea students Tommy Stanford as Bertie Wooster, James Schwartz as Jeeves, Senior Gabe Schueckler as Gussie Finknovel, Agnes Baker as Aunt Dahlia, Senior Felice Lagarde as Aunt Agatha, Bea Stanford as Madeline Bassett. Student assistance with post-production was provided by Thomas Kelly and Jude Lagarde. The technical director was Mr. Kieran O'Donnell, and the producer was Mr. Christopher Foeckler.